During the Cold War in the 1950s and 1960s, the United States government grew increasingly uneasy about some of their soldiers that were captured by the Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean agents. The United States learned about the mind control methods used by the Koreans on the American captives that were being held in Korea. And not wanting their enemies to gain the upper hand in the war, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, Allen Dulles, approved his staff to secretly launch a highly classified project to study mind control using LSD and other psychedelic drugs. The CIA did this by taking hundreds of unsuspecting citizens from the United States and Canada to use as guinea pigs for various tests and research. These tests included the effects of different psychedelic drugs on the brain, radiological implants, hypnosis, electroshock therapy, and isolation techniques. The CIA paid over 30 hospitals, prisons, and universities to cooperate and for their silence to conduct experiments on clients, patients, and prisoners. This was all done to create a truth serum and ultimately close the brainwashing gap between the rivals during the Cold War. The CIA ultimately concluded that the drugs and experiments were too unpredictable for reliable research, but they already made a fatal mistake that will eventually blow the lid wide open on their cunning schemes. The Allen Memorial Institute, located in Canada, was one of many used by the CIA for the MK Ultra experiments. Lana Sobczak is the daughter of a survivor of the MK Ultra tragedy. Lana Ponding, on the other hand, is a survivor herself and will give first-hand details about some of the experiments.
My father was a victim of Dr. Cameron. He was a 27-year-old, healthy skier, canoeer, very athletic, and he had asthma. They told him if he went to the Allen Memorial, they could cure his asthma.
I was having trouble with my parents, and my father and my stepmother decided to put me in the Allen Memorial Institute. They had no idea what went on in there. I was 16 when I was there.
He also was put in an insulin coma for 36 days with a recording beside him saying that your mother hates you over and over and over and over and over.
That was beside my bed constantly, repeated 250,000 and 500,000 times.
One of the experiments was called the Page-Russell experiment, which is shock therapy that is approximately 40 to 70 times stronger than normal shock treatment. It was used to try and completely erase all memory of an individual.
He received 54 high-voltage shock treatments, followed by 54 grand mal seizures.
Patients were soon released from the Allen Memorial Institute, but the damage has already been done. As expected, these harsh treatments and experiments left devastating effects on the patients and their families.
Well, there's a lot I could not remember after I got out of the Allen. When my family came, I was a zombie. I didn't even know who they were.
He never came out the same. He had a blank look in his eye. He didn't know who we were. He didn't know we were his daughters. He lost his job. We went into poverty after he came out. They all were behind it. They all knew what they were doing, but they weren't doing it out of care or love. They were doing it out of military and political reasons.
I am on medication now because of what happened to me when I was 16. I have not had any compensation or apology. I want everyone to know in Canada what went on in that horrible, horrible hospital.
No doubt this made huge headlines. Other people also started speaking up against the government, who had just ignored the claims altogether. To keep these secrets hidden, CIA Director Allen Dulles ordered all documents relating to MK Ultra be destroyed immediately. Ironically, the person who ultimately exposed the CIA's secret was the unexpected death of a former CIA agent who supposedly committed suicide. Frank Rudolph Emanuel Olson was an American bacteriologist biological warfare scientist, and an employee of the United States Army Biological Warfare Laboratories who worked at Camp Detrick in Maryland and was part of the CIA. Frank and 4 other associates of him were invited by the CIA for a meeting regarding important documents, but this was all fabricated. Unbeknownst to Frank and his companions, this was a setup from the CIA who spiked their drinks with LSD. They were told about it 20 minutes later to see what research they could obtain from their behavior before and after realizing they had been unknowingly drugged, according to reports. Frank left the meeting utterly enraged and threatened to resign and expose them. The CIA claimed he supposedly suffered from extreme paranoia and depression and sent him to a psychotherapist located in New York. While in New York, Frank supposedly jumped off the 10th floor of his hotel. This was stated by another CIA agent who apparently woke up at 1:15 a.m. and saw Frank jump to his death. Olson's wife and 3 kids found this puzzling and hard to believe, but there was not much they could do as there was a lack of evidence at this time to disprove anything said to them by the CIA. Years later, one of Olson's kids decided to exhume his father's body due to the MK-Ultra allegations against the government, and what experts found was shocking to say the least. It was later confirmed that before his supposed jump, Frank was hit in the head with a blunt object, according to the new inspection done on his remains. And with much more evidence pointing towards the CIA, the government had no choice but to admit their wrongdoings, and Frank's family later received $1.25 million for his compensation for the death of their loved one. Those who were affected by the MK-Ultra tragedy, however, to this day are still awaiting some sort of compensation from the CIA. A full-scale investigation was then done on those involved, but a correct time frame and sufficient information could not be established or found because most documents had been destroyed, and none of the agents claimed to remember anything regarding MK-Ultra, and the government had not said anything since as to not shed more light on this tragic story.